So is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So yeah. So from this until until this point, we saw the background story and how the Bhagavad Gita starts with Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. So from this time onwards, we'll proceed further, about until second chapter. Krishna doesn't speak in Bhagavad Gita. Only the devotees and only the other characters like Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. So the conversation will be only between them. So basically, it is like build up of the case. So in the beginning of second chapter onwards, Krishna starts giving messages of Bhagavad Gita to Krishna Arjuna. So in this session, we'll discuss about what is Krishna's, how Krishna reciprocates with his devotee. Okay. First, we discuss the part of Bhagavad Gita and then see the applications and what we can learn from there. Okay. So, so until the last verse, we saw like how the armies on the both sides were standing and how Duryodhana started analyzing like what are their strengths and what are our strengths, like that. And now then when Duryodhana was acting very diplomatically, Duryodhana has very good diplomacy. He actually prizes somebody who is going to help him in winning the war, and he tries to balance. Okay. And after after speaking to Dronacharya, and he actually prizes Bhishma. Bhishma was the very greatest warrior of the time. So he prizes Bhishma, thinking that Bhishma has ability to win the war for him. So upon hearing the praising of Bhishma, Duryodhana, Bhishma, he was Kshatriya in nature, so he liked his praises, and he realized that Dhritarashtra was little insecure within, looking at the Pandavas' forces. So in order to give him the joy, the majestic elder among the Kurus, the great grandfather, in order to bring the joy to Duryodhana, making the sound of lion, blew his conch loudly. So he loudly blew his conch shell so that Duryodhana can get pacified, Duryodhana can be at ease. So upon it is said that Duryodhana had no chance to win the battle because Krishna was on the other side. Because Duryodhana was praising Bhishma and Dronacharya and other warriors on his side, and was saying externally that our strength is immeasurable and Pandava's strength is very limited, like that. But Bhishma know that because of presence of Krishna on the other side, the Pandavas are already victorious, and victory is guaranteed for them. So he didn't respond, he didn't speak anything. He just, as a matter of duty, he has to do his best on the side for whom he is fighting. So in order to encourage Duryodhana, he blew the conch shell loudly. So basically, if you don't have the real content, we rely on the details. If somebody is not confident enough, somebody is not secure within, they rely on factors like showing off their opulences, or showing off their external power or beauty or anything like that. If somebody is very satisfied within, somebody is somebody is content within, then they don't rely on these external factors. But of course, every person needs appreciation, every person needs encouragement. But a devotee is always take shelter in Krishna's service or on his spiritual practice. And devotee is always contributing rather than exploiting others. Okay. And then when Bhishmadeva blew his conch shell, then all the kettle drums and small drums, large drums were suddenly sounded, making tumultuous roar. Okay, so it indicates that both sides became eager to fight. So it is the custom in those in previous ages that before going to war, you actually blew your conch shell and you address, you make the other party also aware that okay, I'm going to attack you, like that. But nowadays, like the wars in those days actually used to happen on the basis of religion, means dharma yuddha. But nowadays wars are happening like people hiding in some hills or hideouts, and from there they are firing the missiles or something. So nowadays this Kali Yuga wars are all based on just victory minded, but not religious minded. So when the principles, the spiritual values are applied to any aspect of living, it will not only gives pleasure in this world, but also gets us to the higher destination in the next level. Means like it will grow, it will help us grow. Even like the Pandava Kauravas also, they are, even though they are wicked minded, they tried their best to fight the war righteously. Because if somebody fights the war unrighteously, somebody is not following the principles of the war, then they are considered very cowardly in those days. So that is the cultural difference from that that age and this age. Okay, then the Krishna and Arjuna standing in a large chariot yoked with white horses blew their divine conches. So actually our acharyas give very good explanation about why whenever any aspect of Krishna and Arjuna comes into picture, Sanjaya immediately addresses as Divyam, means transcendental, means they are not of this world, they are not material, they are spiritual. So why? Because any amount of matter does not value nothing when compared to even a spark of spiritual thing. Because spiritual power, we already discussed in the previous class how the more the subtle, it will be more powerful. Because when compared to the gross elements, senses are more subtler. When compared to the senses, mind, intelligence, and ego are subtler. When compared to mind, intelligence, ego, the soul is more subtler. So the Pandavas has Krishna on their both sides. So Krishna, all the aspects that are related to Krishna are spiritual in nature. Krishna's name, form, personality, Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's devotees, everybody is spiritual in nature. So that contributes more strength to the Pandavas side. That's why whenever Krishna and Arjuna speak, or Krishna and Arjuna blows their conch shells, Sanjay addresses them as Divyam. So that's why hearing to Krishna Katha, speaking about Krishna, or chanting holy name of Krishna means there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna paraphernalia, Krishna and Krishna's name. Krishna is Krishna Katha. So if you want to associate with Krishna, you can associate with any of these aspects. You can just, like, if you are getting very insecure, if you are getting, there is nobody to support you, you just keep chanting Hare Krishna, then it means that Krishna is on your side, Krishna is with you. So when we have that, even if you don't have faith also, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, it doesn't depend on your faith. Holy name has its own potency. Means Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's katha, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna, anything related to Krishna, Krishna's devotees, Krishna's service, anything related to Krishna is absolute in nature, is spiritual in nature. So it has more potency when compared to the material things. Material things can perish over a period of time, but spiritual things does not perish. So when when Krishna and Arjuna blew their conch shells, then here Vyasdeva writes all the names of the conch shells. Krishna blew his Panchajana. Like every conch shell sounds in a unique way. Like based on their sound of the conch shell, they recognize whose conch shell it is, who is blowing. That's how they fight the war. So Krishna blew his Panchajanya, Arjuna blew his Devadatta, and Bhima's conchal is Poundra. Yudhishthir's conchal is Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula Sahadev's conchals are Sugandha and Manipushpaka. So only the Pandavas' conchals are named, even not even Bhishma's conchal was named, because all the things related to Krishna and the things related to Krishna's devotees are spiritual in nature. That's why Sanjay mentioned the names of his conchals, and Vyasa wrote. Okay. So next, what happens? Then the king of Kashi, the great archer, this Shikandi, the Maharati, and Drishtadyumna, Virata, and Satyaki, who could not be defeated, and Drupada, the son of Draupadi, and the mighty armed Abhimanyu, and blew their conchals one after other. So everybody on the Pandava side blew their conch shell simultaneously. So when when Bhishma Deva blew his conch shell from the Kaurava side, Kauravas also blew their conch shells, like they sounded their kettle drums, small drums and big drums, and blew their conch shells. But nothing happened on the Pandava side. So but when Krishna and Arjuna blew their conch shell, everybody on the all the Pandavas and all the great warriors on the Pandava side, when they blew their conch shells, something happened. So that tumultuous sound filling the sky and earth split the hearts of Dhritarashtra's son, because a sense of fear developed in the sons of Dhritarashtra. Sons of Dhritarashtra means the opposite party, the Kauravas. Why? Because see, it is like we have the sixth sense, like sometimes something, and if something bad happens, it will, our sixth sense, our heart will indicate. Even the nature also will indicate. Like that's why in Vedic culture they say apashakun, means they see some bad omens and say, then they figure out that something bad has already happened or something bad is going to happen. Or also if something there are some auspicious signs also. If for man it is any agitation on the right part of the body. For women, any agitation for women on the left side of the body, something like that. So there are some auspicious, like even they are very nicely explained in Ramayana also. When Sita Devi was in the in Lanka, she was about to because she got frustrated with Ravana's harassment. So she thought, I will just commit suicide, because it's been few months, but Ram did not come to protect me. Thinking like that, she was contemplating on committing suicide. So then she actually had these all auspicious signs, like auspicious omens. Then after immediately she met Hanuman, and from that onwards how everything led to the war, and finally Sita was rescued. So like that, when the Kauravas blew their conch shells, Pandavas were, nothing happened on the Pandava side. There is no reaction at all. But when the Pandavas blew their conch shell, the Kauravas' hearts got shattered. So one who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of greatest calamity. So if you are going into a situation where you don't know anything, we don't know nothing, and we are very fearful and we don't know what to do, and just take shelter of Krishna, just by remembering Krishna, just by chanting the holy name of Krishna, and just by meditating on Krishna, that will actually saves us from greatest calamities. I will by the end of the session I will let you know how it is the greatest benediction for a devotee. He can actually feel sheltered in all circumstances. So after that, what happened? Then, O king, then Sanjay is saying, then as the armies prepare to fight, Arjuna with Hanuman's insignia on his flag, seeing the sons of Dhritarashtra standing there, taking his bow in hand, spoke to Hrishikesha, O Achyuta, please station my chariot between two armies. So I can view the commencement of the war. Those situated with a desire to fight, and those with whom I should fight. I see that those who have gathered here desiring to please foolish sons of Dhritarashtra are intend to fight. So basically, Arjuna wanted to see the warriors on the other side. Now, basically, everybody in that age knew that Dhritarashtra was on the wrong side. Dhritarashtra was cheater. Dhritarashtra was adharmi. But here Arjuna wanted to see the warriors on the other side. Basically, some commentators say that Arjuna wanted to see the warrior. He is a warrior. He went to battlefield. Whoever comes on his opposite side, whoever comes challenging him, he should fight as per Kshatriya Dharma. What is the point of Arjuna thinking to see the warriors on the other side? It is said that it is a fratricidal war, means it is the war between two brothers. Okay, so he wanted to see his relatives before starting the war, because once the war starts, there is no talks, only fighting. So that's why he wanted to see the warriors on the other side, so that he will have an idea with whom he is going to fight. So here Acharyas also gives nice commentary. Like sometimes, many times, not sometimes, many times what happened is something comes up, maybe like some YouTube ad or something, like some news or some like we were planning to do something, we are engaged in some activity, either our job, either our any spiritual practice or any class. So immediately some distraction comes in the form of a message, in the form of a Facebook notification or something like that, and some kind of curiosity will develops in us. Oh, what is it about? Is it anything important, or is it anything very pleasing? So this curiosity, then we think, okay, I'll just see what it is about, and then I will resume my work, or I will resume my sadhana, or I will resume my practice. Then we'll go there and we just see. After watching that, we say, oh, we'll see something. Okay, let me see for 2 minutes. Let me see what it is about. Then we'll start playing, or we'll start reading it. Then immediately, then we develop interest into it, and we spend hours of time wasting like that. So basically, that is the power of distraction. Means everything starts with this attitude of, let me see what it is there. So, like for suppose you come into a temple, or you start meditation, or you start chanting, and when you are chanting, you dedicate that time. You dedicate that even when you are at the office work or anything like that. We dedicate the time with. We should dedicate the time with that work. That means we should be totally absorbed in our the work in our hand. But what we do, we actually get distracted with these interruptions, and we lose a lot of time and energy. So distractions will hamper our progress. Like just how, because Arjuna, he thought, I will just see and come and then start fight. But when Arjuna went and saw, he got depressed. He got total imbalance of the mind, and he was about to give up the fight. If Krishna didn't motivate the fight for which will establish dharma, Arjuna is not fighting for his passion or his arrogance. He is fighting on the behalf of dharma. He wants to establish dharma, because they were cheated. Justice on the side of the Arjuna, so he is fighting for the justice. Something which is bringing us to the mode of goodness, something which is taking us on the path of dharma or religiosity, should never be given up. And Arjuna went to the point that he wanted to give the activity of fighting the war, which is dharma, which is his dharma. So Acharya's caution about it, when we have to cut down this propensity of like going behind our mind, or getting distracted, or like with the having the mentality of just I will see what it is, like that kind of mentality. If something is not related or something that something we don't require, we don't have to invest our time and energy in that. Okay, but if you have the power to come back quickly, or give up the distraction, get out of the distraction quickly, then there is okay, that is possibility. But many times we become victim of our mind. Okay, and in this verse it is said that Krishna, Sanjay highlights about Arjuna's chariot. Arjuna had a flag of Hanuman. This indicates that he has the mercy of the blessings of great devotee Hanuman also. So there are nice stories why Arjuna had Hanuman on his flag. I will tell you at the end of the session. So, and what happened then? When Arjuna spoke to him, thus Rishikesha stationing the best of the chariots between the two armies in front of Bhishma and Drona, and all the princes spoke, see the Kurus gathered here. So, so when Arjuna requested Krishna to take him forward, or in the middle of the two armies, so that he could see the warriors on the both sides. So what Krishna did is, Krishna took the chariot and stationed the chariot of Arjuna in front of Drona and Bhishma, who are very dear to Arjuna, and then told to Arjuna that just see the warriors on this side. So when this happened, Arjuna saw standing there the fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, father-in-law, and well-wishers on the both sides. So on the battlefield, Arjuna could see all his relatives, different kinds of relatives. Okay, and he could see the persons like Bhurisha, who was his father's contemporaries, and grandfather Bhishma, Somadatta, teacher Dronacharya, Krupacharya, maternal uncles like Shalya, Shakuni, and brothers like Duryodhana and sons of Lakshmana. So friends like Ashwadhama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. He could see the armies which contained many of his friends. So basically Arjuna is like Arjuna saw many dear ones on the other side of the battlefield. So then what happened? The son of Kunti, seeing all his relatives situated there, overcame with compassion and depressed, and spoke as follows. So when it is said that it is Krishna, out of his compassion, he took the chariot and stationed it in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya, who are very dear to Arjuna. Bhishma is Arjuna's grandfather, and Dronacharya is Arjuna's martial teacher. So basically, when the Pandavas lost their father when they were very young, and Kunti Maharani, along with her 5 sons, came to the Hastinapura. At that point of time, nobody gave them such an affection. So at that point of time, Bhishma gave the affection of father to the Pandavas. And Arjuna was very much attached to Bhishma there. And Dronacharya taught very confidential matters to Arjuna. And Dronacharya even preferred, actually he was very affectionate, more affectionate towards Arjuna than his own son Ashwatthama. Means in terms of teaching. Okay. So, and Arjuna being very respectful to elderly people, and also respectable to his guru, he was very obedient and very he was very dear to Bhishma and Drona also. So Arjuna saw them on the other side of the battle, So it means that he is going to kill them or he is going to harm them. So basically, as per the dharma, one should not fight with the elders. One should not even talk loudly in front of the elders. So he thought it will be adharma, like that is one of the Maryada Vitikram. So he thought it is adharma to fight with his respectable personalities. So one of the main thing is when when Arjuna asked Krishna to station his chariot in front of the enemy warriors, Krishna took him straight to in front of Drona and Bhishma, because Arjuna, Krishna know like whom Arjuna likes the most and whom Arjuna will be very much attached to. So that is Krishna's affection. Like Krishna's affection can be seen here. Okay, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead himself. Krishna is worshipped by even Shiva, Brahma, even by the Vishnu. But he is like, there is nobody equal to him or superior to him. Krishna is Asamordhva, means there is nobody equal to him and there is nobody superior to him. So such a kind of person, such a kind of the supreme personality of Godhead, he is taking the role of a chariot driver to his devotee. So that's the compassion of Krishna. And here what we can see is Krishna wants to serve his devotees. Basically, some preachers say that highlight the fact that like in those days, especially in the war, when the fighting is happening, there will be a lot of sounds, like somebody is killing and they shout, and somebody who is getting killed, they will also shout, and there will be a lot of animals, there will be chariots, there will be elephants, there will be horses. So all these, they make a lot of tumultuous sound or a lot of noise during the war. So during the war, what happens is, if you want to instruct the driver to take right, then the charioteer, like the person who is sitting on the back, he will actually kick the driver on the right side, means take right. If you want to turn left, then he will kick the driver on the left side. So that is the way they indicate how the driver should be going. So like it means Krishna became prepared to get the kicks from the Arjuna. So see, if like when a child is born to the parents, when the child is very when a child is very young, like just born, like still infant stage, when the child kicks, the mother and father takes great pleasure. But when the same child grows to his adult age, like when he is in 20s and 30s, 30 years old or 50 years old, then if the child kicks, it is the most disrespectful thing that a child can do to his parents. And what to speak of his parents, like if anybody, like even the equals or younger or even the elderly people also, if they touch anybody with the feet, it is considered to be very grave offense in the Vedic culture. So means like somebody who is taking the role of chariot means he will be kicked by the charioteer. So Krishna took that post. Krishna took that post of a driver for the sake of his devotee. And like and Krishna knew, like Arjuna is going to fight with all his own relatives, his own friends, his own gurus, and his own grandfather and very affectionate friends. And when the war starts, and because Arjuna is fighting this war for the sake of dharma, to establish dharma in the Bhumandala, so Krishna doesn't want him to get depressed. Like we already discussed about the past time, right? When Arjuna and Duryodhana goes to Krishna to ask for this help in the Kurukshetra war, Krishna actually pretended like sleeping, And as he woke up, even though Duryodhana came first, as per the rule, Duryodhana should be given the first choice to choose if to choose him or his army. So, but Krishna says that I first saw Arjuna. So Arjuna is younger also to you. So Arjuna should be given the first preference. So Krishna gave Arjuna first choice, either to choose him or his army. So, but Arjuna very affectionately or out of love towards Krishna and having full confidence in Krishna's grace, he chose Krishna on his side, who is not even going to touch the weapon. And Duryodhana became very happy. Oh, I don't want Krishna who is not going to fight. I want his army. So he took Krishna's army. So when Arjuna took Krishna on his side, Krishna actually, Arjuna had a full power to protect himself and to win the war, but he doesn't have enough strength, spiritual strength or mental strength to overcome the affection or attachment to his relatives. So if that's why, Krishna protected Arjuna in many circumstances in the Kurukshetra war. This is one of the major things in the beginning itself. Otherwise, he will be duck out. So Krishna know the weakness of Arjuna. So that's why initially he took Arjuna and kept stationed the chariot in front of the Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev. So when Arjuna got bewildered and when Arjuna became depressed, and then Krishna started addressing his weaknesses. So that's why Krishna also sometimes in our life, he may we may have to face our weaknesses. Until we face our weaknesses, we don't grow, either spiritually or materially. So it is said that a bhakti process is a face-to-face war with Maya. So Maya will find the weak spot and try to target that, either your mental weakness or your physical weakness or your emotional weakness. Maya will target that. So we should always be ready to face our weaknesses, and Krishna will definitely help us in overcoming these weaknesses. So Krishna can directly do that. Krishna can directly do through his energies or through his representatives. Who are the representatives of Krishna? Krishna's message is accessible to us in three ways: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Krishna's message can be taken from the Shastras, means the authorized scriptures, and Sadhu, the saintly persons, and Guru, the spiritual master. So spiritual masters, sadhus, and shastras, they addresses the weakness of the heart of everyone, and so that everybody can progress in their spiritual life. Okay. So in order to address Arjuna's weakness ahead of the battle only, then Krishna made this arrangement. So when Krishna stationed his chariot in front of his most dear relatives, Arjuna became bewildered, and Krishna was able to address his weakness. And Krishna gave the message of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna so that he can come out of that weakness and then carry out his duties. So then, there are some aspects in the Kurukshetra war where Krishna instigated the anger of Arjuna. Basically, when it came to Arjuna has to fight with Bhishma Dev. But when fighting with Bhishma Dev, Arjuna was not doing his best. He was throwing the arrows, but with not with full power. And Bhishma Dev, being a Kshatriya and being very strict about with the principle, he was doing his best. And Arjuna was not planning to attack Bhishma Dev with his full power. So Krishna became fed up with Arjuna's behavior. He said, Arjuna, if you are not going to kill Bhishma Dev, I will myself kill. So he started jumping from the chariot and he picked up the chariot wheel of picked up a chariot wheel to attack Bhishma Dev. When Arjuna saw that, and Arjuna felt bad because of my weakness, because of me not doing my duty properly, Arjuna had to break his promise. Arjuna has promised that he is not going to fight in the war. He is not going to hold a weapon in the war. And because Arjuna was not doing his best, Krishna had to take up that task into his hand. So when this happened, Arjuna becomes very disappointed and very he felt very bad because of my behavior. Arjuna Krishna has to break his promise. Breaking a promise in those days is very like a very crucial thing. Very no, it's not a very important thing. That means what it means some who is very strong and who is in dharmic position, they will not break their promise. So, and because of Krishna's act, Arjuna then he fought with Bhishma Dev with his full valor. No, of course, no, they took the help of Shikandi to kill Bhishma Dev. And also the Abhimanyu's death. Abhimanyu's death is also a very turning point in the war of Kurukshetra. Until that point of time, all the Pandavas were fighting religiously and dharmically according to the rules and regulations of the war. But like now, one time what happened, like the Kauravas, they like when after Bhishma Deva's death, the Kauravas devised a plan. Like if like there is a rule in Kshatriya in those days that if somebody comes and challenges you, if you are like a Kshatriya, that Kshatriya has to accept the challenge and has to fight with them. So like some portion of the army, like who was like considerably powerful, they actually came forth and challenged Arjuna. You come and fight with us. And it is Arjuna's vow that if anybody challenges me, I will definitely fight with them. So Arjuna went to fight with them, and they during the fight they took Arjuna to the very far from battlefield of Kurukshetra. So seeing that Arjuna is not there, Dronacharya immediately he formed a Padma Vyuha. Padma Vyuha means the military arrangement which cannot be like in the form of a lotus flower. Okay, so in those days, as per the rules of the war, if somebody forms a military formation and if the opposite party is not going to if the opposite party doesn't break that vyuha or that arrangement in certain time, like by the end of the day, then they should be declared victorious. Means if like but on the side of the Pandavas, only Arjuna knows how to break that Padma Vyuha. So, but Arjuna was not there. Arjuna went away far, and Arjuna was fully engaged there, fighting with the persons who challenged him. So at that point of time, only Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, knew how to break the Padma Vyuha. So with the help of so Abhimanyu breaks the Padma Vyuha and enters into the Padma Vyuha, enters into the military of the Kauravas. And there is one warrior who actually, as per the plan of the Pandavas, if Abhimanyu enters into the army of the Kauravas, along with him, the rest of the Pandavas, the Dharma, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Nakul and Sahadev, and other very prominent warriors will enter into the enter along with Abhimanyu and will protect him. That was the plan of the Pandavas. But there is one warrior. His name is Jayadratha. So Jayadratha has a benediction from Lord Shiva that he will defeat all the Pandavas except Arjuna for one day. So when he used that benediction that day, so it made that due to his benediction, none of the Pandavas were able to enter into the Padma Viha to support Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu was all alone in the Padma Viha. And when Abhimanyu was very valiant warrior, so nobody was able to face him. Even Karna, even Dronacharya was not able to face him. So all these Adhirita Maharadis, they came together and killed Abhimanyu. But as per the rules of Kshatriya, only one warrior, Atiradi, means if he is Atiradi, only another Atiradi should fight with him. But the Kauravas, they broke all the rules and regulations at that point of time. So because Kauravas broke the rule, they were able to kill Abhimanyu. The Karna actually from behind, he broke the bow of the Abhimanyu. Throwing an arrow from behind is adharma. And when a person is fighting with one warrior, another warrior should not interfere with him. So when Abhimanyu was fighting with somebody broke his chariot, somebody killed his chariot driver, and also like that. So many warriors attacked Abhimanyu simultaneously, even though he was a very young boy, and killed him very kill him in a cheating manner. So when Arjuna came at the end of the day back to the resting place, he comes to know about the death of Abhimanyu. Then he finds out who is responsible for this death. Then he comes to know that Jayadratha was the person who blocked all the Pandavas so that they are not able to give protection to Abhimanyu. So then immediately Arjuna promises, takes the oath that by tomorrow sunset, I am going to kill Jayadratha, who is responsible for death of Abhimanyu. If not, then I will enter into the fire. So he takes that oath. So, and Krishna was not disappointed. He says, Arjuna, why you take such kind of promises? Like what if you are not able to kill Jayadratha tomorrow? Then you have to end up your life. But Arjuna was not at all worried because Krishna will take care of what it is. So at that night, like after Arjuna taking the oath, Arjuna was able to sleep peacefully. But Krishna was not peaceful at all. Krishna was worried. How can I actually protect Arjuna tomorrow morning? So he became fully prepared. Now, if Arjuna enters into fire or Arjuna ends his life, then I'm going to kill myself, all the Kaurava army. So he actually ordered his chariot and his to bring all his weapons so that he will take up personally into the war. So, but the next day morning, like the Kaurava side, they know what Arjuna had promised. So what their entire goal was to just protect Arjuna, Jayadratha, from being killed by Arjuna. So they formed the needle formation. Needle formation means all the warriors of the army will be in the form of a needle and Jayadratha will be at the end. So if in order to reach Jayadratha, Arjuna has to face all the warriors on his way. So it was an impossible task, because there are many prominent warriors like Dronacharya and Karna and other very powerful warriors are there in the Kaurava side with whom Arjuna has to fight. So Arjuna, even though he fought very to the best of his abilities, he was only able to reach to the middle of the formation. So by the end of sunset, he was at the point, means like only like you can say up to 70% of the length. So at that point of time, Krishna has to intervene, and the sun was setting. So when the sun was about to set in certain time, Krishna had made an illusion that he actually sends his Sudarshan Chakra to cover the sun and give the impression to everybody that sun has already set. and the army on the Jayadratha, the Kaurava side was overjoyed because now Arjuna will commit suicide. Arjuna will enter into the fire and end his life. So if there is no Arjuna, means there is no victory for the Pandavas. So thinking that sun has set, Jayadratha and other Kaurava warriors, they came from the hideout, they came in front of Arjuna to see Arjuna entering into the fire. So when Jayadratha came reachable to Arjuna's arrows, then Krishna uncovered the sun and ordered Arjuna to kill Jayadratha. And Arjuna immediately took his bow and arrow and then he severed the head of Jayadratha. And Krishna ordered Arjuna that his head should not fall on the ground, make his head fall in the lap of his father who is meditating in the Himalayas. Because Jayadratha's father gave the benediction to Jayadratha that anybody who makes my son's head fall down, they will immediately die. Their head will burst into 100 pieces and they will immediately die. So then Arjuna took Pashupatastra, which is given to him by Lord Mahadev, and made the head of Jayadratha to fly to Himalayas and fall in the lap of the father of Jayadratha. And when some head fell in the lap of father of Jayadratha, he noticed that it is his son of his head of his son, so he just threw it off on the ground, and his head burst into pieces. So basically, when Arjuna vowed that he will kill Jayadratha, Duryodhana was very happy. If you are able to protect Jayadratha today, then Arjuna is going to end his life. And if we are not able to protect Jayadratha, and if Arjuna kills Jayadratha, and his head will fall, and who is responsible for that? Arjuna is responsible for the killing of Jayadratha. Means Arjuna is the one who actually made his head fall down on the ground, and he will die because of the benediction from the father of Jayadratha. So Duryodhana was in a win-win situation. Like definitely we are going to win battle today because Arjuna is going to die. So that was his plan in the beginning of the war. But because Krishna was there, Krishna is all knowing. Krishna knows everything, and Krishna knows how to tackle everything. So that's why if we take shelter of Krishna, there is no problem that Krishna cannot bring us out of it. Krishna knows how to handle everything. And also Krishna protected him not only from these kind of incidents. Krishna also protected him many times. When Karna used this Nagastra, like Nagastra was very powerful. Nagastra is like Naga. So one Naga was there who wanted to take revenge on Arjuna. So he was hiding in the arrows of Karna, and Krishna had to intervene, and Krishna protects him from Nagastra. And also like one time what happened when there is a battle between Yudhishthira and Karna. Karna badly injures Yudhishthira, and Yudhishthira becomes injured and goes to the take a break from the war. And Arjuna, hearing that incident that Yudhishthira got hurt, Arjuna goes after to see Yudhishthira Maharaj. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj sees Arjuna, Yudhishthira Maharaj was happy. He thought that Arjuna has already killed Karna and came to see him. But Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Arjuna that, did you kill Karna? And Arjuna says, no, I didn't kill Arjuna, because I just came to see how you are doing, because I heard that you got hurt from by the Karna's arrows. So I came to see you. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj becomes very upset. Then he says, what is the use of Arjuna? Just throw off your Gandiva. What is the use of your Gandiva? He says out of frustration. But Arjuna had like if anybody says me that to throw off my Gandiva or to give away my Gandiva, I will kill him. That is, his promise. So because he promised, Arjuna, then he's getting prepared to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Krishna observes this. Now, what this Arjuna is doing. So Krishna says, what are you planning to do? And Arjuna says to Krishna that, see, I have the vow that if anybody says to give up my bow, then I have to kill that person. So because Yudhishthira Maharaj, even though he's a respectable king for me, he is my elder brother, but he had said me that he has done that to me. He needs to be killed as per my promise. I have to kill him. So, but Krishna says, wait a minute, if you want to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj, it is going to complicate all the situations. So there is the way that you can actually handle this. You just insult Yudhishthira, and you actually chastise Yudhishthira. Then as per the rules of dharma, if a junior chastises a senior, it is as good as killing the senior person. So you don't have to kill the Yudhishthira Maharaj. If you insult Yudhishthira Maharaj, then it is as good as killing him. So then Arjuna, even though he is not willing to do that, he actually chastises Yudhishthira Maharaj, because you played this gambling match, because of your weakness of what we are all suffering. Like that, he insults Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Yudhishthira Maharaj felt very bad. No, yes, because of me only everybody is suffering. I'm just going to go away from him. I'm going to take sannyas. So Yudhishthira Maharaj started walking away from the tent, the place where he is resting. And Arjuna immediately fell on his feet and begged forgiveness and said, my intention was not to insult you, but my intention was only to fulfill my promise. And Yudhishthira Maharaj got convinced. Then immediately Arjuna started taking out his knife to kill himself. And Krishna again stopped him. What are you doing? Why are you trying to kill yourself? And Krishna says, no, I have insulted Yudhishthira Maharaj. And I am like, it is as per my promise again, if anybody insults Yudhishthira Maharaj, I will kill him. And also, I myself insulted Yudhishthira Maharaj, and I should be dying. I should be killing myself. So Arjuna, then Krishna says, no, you can handle this also. You can handle this in different manner. See, you just praise yourself. You just boast yourself about your greatness. Then it is as good as killing yourself. So as per the dharmic rules, if anybody praises himself or anybody boasts himself about his greatness, means he is actually killing himself. So Arjuna actually now boasts himself. No, I am so and so, I am a great warrior. So I am this great, that great. He says about himself, and he actually becomes pacified. So basically, Krishna protects Arjuna in many situations. Krishna protects Pandavas in many situations, both from within and without, means from the outside enemies and from the internal disturbances or internal confusions. And also, like we already discussed, right? Like how Krishna is enacting this pastime of Battle of Kurukshetra only to give credit to his devotees, because otherwise, in order to only establish dharma, means Krishna single-handedly defeated Jarasandha, who brought 23 Akshohinis of army for 17 times. But in the Battle of Kurukshetra, there is only 18 Akshohinis of army. And Krishna single-handedly defeated 23 Akshohinis of army for 17 times. Because he killed all the demonic people on the earthly planet in those 17 times. So this battle is only for the sake of giving the message of Bhagavad Gita, and also enacting the pastime of Krishna's pastimes, and also glorifying his devotees. Okay, in the beginning, in the next chapter, Krishna says that how all these warriors are already slain by me. You just be my instrument and fight the war. You'll be victorious and you will win the glory. like that he promises. So basically, Krishna's affection, Krishna's love for his devotees is expressed through his actions. Because it is said that love is a synonym, is a love has to be expressed through service. If you love somebody, you have to express through service. Like if a mother loves the child, how she expresses? By feeding the child, by tickling the child, by serving the child, by singing for the child, like that. In the same way, when we love, when we all like, bhakti means love. Bhakti means love, love means service. So when we love somebody, we express our love through service. When we worship, when we are devotee of Krishna, when we perform bhakti, means we are serving Krishna by hearing, by Shravanam, Kirtanam, by glorifying. Archana means by worshipping. Vandana means by paying obeisances. Dasya means in a service attitude. Sakya means in a bring in a friendly mode, like that. So this is a Navavida Bhakti, means that the 9 ways of expressing our love towards Krishna. And Krishna expresses his love by protecting, by giving shelter, and by giving pleasure to his devotees. So Krishna loves to serve his devotees, and devotees loves to serve Krishna. That is, this is a loving reciprocation between Krishna and his devotees. And what Krishna always protects his devotees. But like if a devotee is not matured enough, he cannot understand how Krishna is protecting. So Krishna's protection is for the eternal soul, but not the temporary body. So, but you may say like, but Krishna is protecting the Arjuna's body. Krishna is protecting Arjuna from being killed, means he is protecting the temporary body of Arjuna. So how we can understand is, Krishna will protect the body if it is required for the spiritual advancement. If if we take the example of Arjuna only, Krishna empowered Arjuna. Arjuna was able to kill 11 Akshauhinis of Sena. He fought very, he was able to kill major portion of 11 Akshauhinis of armies on the Kauravas side in the battle of Kurukshetra. But when Krishna left the planet, and he went back to Godhead after his Leela is done, Arjuna was defeated by cowherd boys. Arjuna was so powerful man, he was defeated by simple cowherd men. But of course, it is said that cowherd man was the Krishna himself, who came disguised as cowherd boys. Basically, the pastime is, after Krishna left the planet, Arjuna thought that he can give protection to Krishna's wives. So he thought he was bringing all the Krishna's wife along with him to Hastinapur. And some cowherd boys, they actually stops Arjuna and fights with him and defeats Arjuna. But because it is said that as per the there was a curse to there is a different pastime, but that the story is, Arjuna was not able to save others or save himself in the absence of Krishna. So, and also if you see, the Parikshit Maharaj, like Parikshit Maharaj is the one from whom this Bhagavatam has started. But when at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, all the warriors on the Pandavas side and Kauravas side are dead except the Pandavas. And the Ashwadhama, he shoots an arrow to the child who is in the womb of Uttara. Uttara is the wife of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna. So in order to kill the grandson of Arjuna, Ashwadhama shoots a Brahmastra to kill the grandson of Arjuna who is in the womb of Uttara. And Krishna enters into the womb and personally protects Parikshit Maharaj when he was in the womb of his mother. But when he grew up, he was cursed by a Brahmana. The Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by a Brahmana, and Krishna doesn't protect him, because that situation, like when Krishna gives protection, he gives protection so that we make spiritual advancement. When Krishna sees that this material body is not required, he will not protect. If Krishna sees that if if this if this devotee is getting any physical problems or any mental problems or any problems on any level which will hamper his spiritual progress, then Krishna will definitely protect from that kind of problems. But if Krishna thinks that, okay, if these problems will make him progress more spiritually, means these problems are very conducive for a spiritual progress, in taking shelter of Krishna, in developing detachment from the material things, then Krishna will not give protection from the such kind of problems. So that's why it is said that which is dangerous means forgetting Krishna is more dangerous. There is nothing more dangerous in this material world than forgetting Krishna. And which is beneficial. Nothing is more beneficial than remembering Krishna. So that is the real danger is forgetting Krishna, and real benefit is remembering Krishna. So Krishna's protection is always centered around this principle. How can this person make spiritual progress in his life? What situations will make him take more and more shelter of me and make more and more spiritual progress? That's how he protects his devotees. And see, Krishna sometimes give material wealth and sometimes takes away material wealth. All his activities only so that if Krishna thinks that, okay, if I give him the material wealth, he will make more spiritual progress, Krishna gives the material wealth. If Krishna thinks that if this material wealth is going to be distracting him, this material wealth is going to hamper his spiritual life, then Krishna will take away his material wealth also. So Krishna always tries to give the best possible thing to all the living entities, not only the devotees, the other living entities also. If as per law of karma, if somebody does some abominable things, if, for example, if he is so much addicted to meat eating, if he does meat eating in the form of a human body, he has to go through law of karma. As per law of karma, he will be punished for every act that we do. Every act of breaking regulatory principles that we do are punishable. So if you eat meat in this lifetime, that animal will kill us in the next lifetime and will eat us. Means that's why we call mamsa. Mamsa means I will get the same destination. So, but Krishna mercifully gives, what does it say? He will just give the body of a tiger, so that he can eat the meat, but he will not get entangled in the law of karma. So he will give the best possible things, even like some wicked kind of people also, so not only for the devotees, but for all the living entities. Like if somebody wants to enjoy independent of him, he will, out of his mercy, he puts us in this material world so that we can get rid of this tendency of enjoying independent of Krishna. So because it is not possible in the spiritual world. So that's why Krishna, whatever he does, he is a Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all the living entities at all the times. So that's why whatever he does, he accomplishes many things through any of his acts. And he is very impartial in giving the opportunities to come close to him, for the devotees or non-devotees also. So he was giving the same instruction to Duryodhana, he was giving the same instructions to Pandavas. He was giving the same opportunities. Everybody in the creation, they get the same opportunity to become Krishna conscious based on their internal desire. If somebody desires, I want to approach Krishna, I want to become a devotee, I want to get out of this material world sincerely and do then Krishna will send to him a bona fide guru who will instruct him and who will make him progress in the spiritual life so that he can get out of this material existence. So Krishna is impartial to everybody, and Krishna is affectionate to all the devotees. Krishna is impartial to everybody, but he is specifically more affectionate to the devotees. But giving opportunity to become devotee, it is like Krishna gives that equally to everybody. So that is the nature of Krishna, nature of Krishna's protection to his devotees. So that is the end of today's discussion. If you have any questions or comments, you can discuss from now. I hope you're able to follow, right? Anybody have any questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Swami.
Yes, Mother. Any question?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, we'll end it here. Thank you all very much for joining.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
भगवान की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, अनंतरा श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की जय.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, next week onwards, the class will be 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Next week onwards, we'll have our class at 7:30. So 7:30 to 8:30 we'll have. Like even if it goes little, our goal is to end the class before we reach 9 o'clock. No? If we start the class at 7:30, there is a chance of more discussion. So basically our class will be from 7:30 to 8:30. So I just wanted to notify everybody. So unlike today, like not many devotees are able to join. So from next week onwards, we'll start on time. Okay. Thank you. On time at 7:30.
Do we have any chance, Prabhuji, that we can do